lawsuit has been filed against Ocean City Mayor Rick Meehan and the City Council after a dispute over sheltering homeless people overnight. St. Paul's by the Sea Episcopal Church claims the city is violating its First Amendment rights. The church began operating an indoor shelter after it was told that people couldn't sleep outside in tents on church property. The city's been issuing a $1,000 citation to the church ever since June 8th, which was the government's deadline to stop serving as a shelter. Denver Secretary Greg Patterson was joined by members of the state's congressional delegation for a ribbon-cutting ceremony celebrating the new Delaware Environmental Laboratory near Smyrna. The state-of-the-art facility features scientific analysis of things like water quality testing and early detection of human and animal diseases. We're just a couple weeks away from what's expected to be a busy 4th of July weekend. AAA projecting heavy traffic despite high gas prices. AAA Mid-Atlantic Manager of Public and Government Affairs Janet Tidwell tells Talk of Delmarva that travelers are planning accordingly.
They will cut back in other areas, maybe staying with family and friends instead of incurring hotel expenses. They may not dine out at expensive restaurants. They may choose to cook in or dine at fast casual restaurants.
AAA projects more than 61 million people will take to the roads over the 4th of July week. And today is Juneteenth. All federal and state offices are closed. Banks and the post office also closed today in recognition of the final declarations of freedom for enslaved Americans, which took place on this date in 1865. For more on these and other stories, visit talkofdelmarva.com. I'm Stace Keene.
If you're thinking about retiring soon, be sure to tune in to Wise Money with Michael Anderson of Anderson Wealth Management every Saturday morning at 9. Michael Anderson talks about the latest trends, the latest headlines that could impact your retirement. So again, listen Saturday mornings at 9 to Wise Money with Michael Anderson of Anderson Wealth Management. Michael Anderson, registered investment advisors, doing business as Anderson Wealth Management is a registered investment advisor.
Listen up, Delmarva anglers. The Talk of Delmarva Fishing Report, 7 days a week after the 6 a.m., 10 a.m., and 4 p.m. news and sports.
The Talk of Delmarva Fishing Report is brought to you by Complete Tree Care, licensed and insured. Request an estimate at CompleteTreeCareDE.com. And Chesapeake Bath and Home Solutions, employee-owned, so every project is personal. Visit ChesapeakeBath.com.
It's time for the Talk of Delmarva Fishing Report with Eric Burnley.
Thursday, the wind blew a gale, but only brought out a small craft advisory. The only report I received from boats were those who fished the Lewis and Rehoboth Canal, and they only caught spot and croaker. Patty at Captain Bones said croaker were caught from the Woodland Beach Pier on bloodworms, squid, fish bites, and shrimp. At Augustine Beach, the occasional striper is taken on bloodworms or cut bait, and catfish are also available on the cut bait. Steve at Smith Maid said croaker have been caught at Woodland Beach, Port Mahon, Bowers Beach on bloodworms, shrimp, squid, and fish bites. White perch are on the tidal creeks and rivers and will take bloodworms or fish bites. Dan at Dan's Tackle said big croaker were caught from Broadkill Beach on Wednesday night. Nothing was caught on Thursday. This is Eric Burnley with your Talk of Delmarva Fishing Report.
Broadcasting from the Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
And Good Friday morning. It's Digital Interactive Friday. No, it's not Thursday, although it might feel like it to some people. It's the news cycle that's doing it to us, my friends. It's great to have you here with me at DS2, Digital Suite 2, behind the shiny golden microphone. I'm your anchorman, Jake Smith. For the next 2 hours, we will be examining a number of very interesting topics. I hope you will get a lot out of them. We're waiting on former Texas Congressman from the 1st District in Texas, Louis Gohmert, to sign in to talk to us about how we can and why we should save Capitol Hill. My friends, as you know, I have been saying for years that Congress is broken. And it's not broken because of our next panelist, former Congressman from the great state of Texas, Louis Gohmert. Congressman, I miss you. I told you that the last time you were on, but I miss you so much. How are you?
Well, as far as I know, I'm doing well, Jack. Thank you very much. Great to be with you again.
You know, dysfunctional, I guess, is probably the nicest term we can use with
That's a
respect
nice
to
term.
Congress. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yeah, I certainly would. I certainly would. It was so frustrating during my 18 years there. And I was back on Capitol Hill a few weeks ago with Daniel Greenfield, the new CEO of the David Horowitz Freedom Center.
Right.
And anyway, but seeing a lot of my old friends there that are still in Congress and meeting with a number of senators there. You know, you still run into this brick wall of some fear, especially in the House, of gee, well, we don't want to do anything that might rock the boat and cause problems, and gee, what if we do something that causes the Democrats to, you know, seek revenge when they're in the majority? I'm going, good grief, guys, we got the power now. Now is the time to fix things. But most of the Republicans, they want to do something. It's just a matter of getting the leadership moving forward and using the power they've got to fix things.
You have joined, Congressman, you mentioned that Mr. Greenfield, that you were with him, and he was on the show a few weeks ago, but you are currently Senior Fellow for Political Statesmanship with the David Horowitz Freedom Center. I've had David before his passing on the show a number of times. He was just incredible, but the work that's being done to try to fix what is the legislative branch that is dysfunctional, I think is a worthwhile effort. Now, I did put Mr. Greenfield's opinion piece on saving Capitol Hill on a link to it on my show notes for today. So, my friends, if you want to go and read it, and you should, it's outstanding. From your perspective, what do we as voters need to do to fix Congress? It's the legislative branch it's like a falling dominoes going back the other way, because Congress is broken, and then President Trump is forced to issue executive orders. And as you're going to talk about this morning, there are a bunch of Obama and Biden judges just waiting to pull the rug out from the president based on his executive action, right?
Yeah, and they've been doing that. You know, they've been doing that. They did it during his first term, and there really wasn't much ability to stop them because you had a lot of people in the Justice Department that were Obama holdovers and Obama plants that were moved from political appointees into career positions. But there is a chance to do something about it, and the Constitution itself is what provides for the remedy, and it's very simple. And I've been preaching this for so long. The Constitution, Article 3, Section 1, that deals with the judiciary, says, and I get tired of people saying, well, they have those seats for life. What can you do about them? No. Article 3, Section 1 says they will have those seats during their good behavior. That's the wording, during their good behavior. And so, as my old constitutional law professor would say, Congress, except for the Supreme Court, every other federal court owes its existence, its jurisdiction, everything to Congress. Congress brings them into the world. Congress can take them out of the world. Congress can change their jurisdiction. Congress can take their court away from them. Congress can take the judge out. But Congress has not used that authority, and they've let the judges run amok. And so a lot of people have said during judiciary conferences, judiciary committee conferences, well, gee, what can we do? You know, they have to commit a high crime misdemeanor, treason, bribery. And that's not what it says, Jake. It says that they serve during their good behavior. And so the thing is, they think they're untouchable, and it's gotten worse and worse decade after decade that the Judiciary Committee had not called them in to rein them in. They think nobody is going to hold them accountable. So the first step is to subpoena them and bring them before judiciary and hold them accountable for the things and question them about their bad behavior. And by the way, the very first judge that was ever impeached back in the 1800s was removed from his bench for being drunk.
Really?
That's not exactly treason or bribery, you know.
No, but that may not be good behavior, though, Congressman.
No,
right?
that's not good behavior, and that's why he was removed from the bench. And we can do that. Now, the thing is, you don't have to bring them in and say we're moving to impeach them, but you can bring them in like Boasberg. And
I was just going to bring him up. I mean, Boasberg has not been on his best behavior. Would you agree?
No, absolutely. And then you've got and keep in mind the code, the 28 U.S. Code 455 is very clear. Any judge in any proceeding in which his impartiality might reasonably be questioned shall disqualify himself. Now, and that's if where he has a personal bias or prejudice concerning a party. You think Boasberg and McConnell and some of these other judges, Young, Wingate, they have expressed on the record not just a bias, but an outright hatred toward Trump.
Yep.
They should not be sitting on any case involving President Trump. And yet they will not recuse themselves. Well, that's behavior that needs to be questioned by the judiciary. And God bless him, Senator Grassley, you know, he is tenacious. He's the one that just kept digging and digging and digging until they found out about all of the overzealous grabbing of phone information, including my phone information, other members of Congress and Senate that, you know, others just had not been able to get. But I asked Senator Grassley about it, and he said, you know, Ted Cruz is chair of his Judiciary Oversight Committee in the Senate.
Right.
They invited Boasberg and another judge to come in to testify, and they were going to question them about their behavior. And Boasberg and the other judge just said, no, we're not coming. And I said, well, couldn't you subpoena them? And he said, that's the problem. The Senate rules require that we get 60 votes on the Senate floor, and we're not going to get them.
The filibuster has, at this point, with the Republican majority so slim, don't you think the filibuster at this point, I don't care what the Democrats do in the future. I don't care they threaten to pack the court. If we don't get rid of that filibuster now, Congressman, we are looking at a very difficult road in November if we don't fix things now, and we're running out of time. Would you agree?
I agree, and we do have to fix things. And the thing is, if we get rid of the filibuster and fix things, then there's an extremely less chance of them taking over the majority once we fix things. But the point is, and Senator Grassley made another point, if we bring the judges in, even if we brought them in and start questioning them, if then they are later impeached by the House and then come before the Senate for trial, for removal, then people might claim, well, we're not impartial because we've already questioned them on those charges. And that's an interesting point. So, and he said, well, what does it take to get a subpoena in the House? And I said, it just takes a majority of the Judiciary Committee voting to subpoena them. And he said, oh, well, that's where it has to happen. And that's exactly right. And I talked to many of the Judiciary Committee members, and they are fired up. They say, yeah, we got to do it. Jamie Comer says, look, if the Judiciary Committee didn't want to do it, I would be thrilled to subpoena these judges and bring them in. But it needs to be the Judiciary Committee first if they're willing to do it. There's some concern, well, gee, what if we subpoena them? Then when the Democrats take over, they'll try to impeach Clarence Thomas and Alito. And they're going to try to do that anyway.
That's
It
right.
doesn't matter.
They've already said that. They've been very
Yeah.
clear. I
So
mean, take a look.
use the power you got while you got it, and
Right.
to fix the courts while you can. They just got to do that. But the first step is make them understand that they're accountable. And look, Jake, I was a district judge for a decade in state court, and state judges all over the country had just marveled, how do these federal judges get away with commenting on the weight of the evidence the way they do and expressing bias and prejudice against one party in trials, in litigation? Because in state litigation, if a district judge, same type of litigation, criminal or civil litigation, makes the kind of comments that federal judges do, that case would immediately be struck down on appeal and say this was not a fair trial because the judge put his heavy hand on the scales of justice.
No
You
question
can't
about it.
have a judge do that.
Congressman, we need to take a break for just a moment. I've got some questions that have been posted for you on our Dial Interactive board as well. I want to get to those questions. So let's take a break. We're talking with former Texas Congressman Louis Gohmert. He is a senior fellow for political statesmanship with the David Horowitz Freedom Center. Back with Congressman Gohmert in just a moment. Stay with us.
Here's a look at your Delmarva forecast. Thunderstorms likely today, otherwise cloudy skies expected. Daytime highs approaching 80, winds out of the northwest, 5 to 10 miles per hour. Lows level off around 65 tonight, mainly clear skies. High of 83 tomorrow, ample sunshine expected. Sunny skies Sunday with daytime highs approaching 87. 89, chance of thunderstorms Monday. I'm meteorologist Paul Trombley from the Taco Delmarva Weather Center, inland. Right now, it's 67 degrees.
This is Buck Sexton. The Clay Traviston Buck Sexton Show now airs noon to 3 weekdays on WGMD's 92.7, The Talk of Delmarva.
Biggest stage in world soccer is here, and every goal changes everything. And now, FanDuel is giving you a reason to root for every single one. Introducing Every Goal Pays. Bet on a match and get bonus bets for every goal scored in that match. More goals means more bonus bets, and all you have to do is turn on your token. Are the U.S. going to go on a deep run, reach a semifinal, or even a final in a dream world? From the opening whistle to the final kick, let there be goals on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to get started now. 21 and over, select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino. 18 and over in D.C., Kentucky, and Wyoming. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-MY-RESET. In Connecticut, call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat. In Maryland, visit mdgamblinghelp.org. In Massachusetts, visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 1-800-327-5050. In New York, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Louisiana, call 1-877-770-7867.
Hey Delaware, we care. This is Steve Bell from Bell House Medical in Lewis, Delaware. If you need a scooter, if you need a power chair, if you need something that's going to help you mobilize and get around the house or out of the house and you're not able to walk and you need something with a motor, easy to charge, easy to take with you, we have Pride scooters and power chairs. Come take a test drive on the scooters. Pride mobility scooters are the best in the industry. They're dependable. Bell House Medical in Lewis, Delaware is open on Monday through Friday, 9 to 4 p.m. On Saturdays, only by appointment.
Views and opinions expressed are those of the hosts, callers, and guests, and not necessarily the staff, management, ownership, advertisers, or sponsors of WGMD. A Delmarva original and one of the country's most successfully owned independent radio stations, providing news, talk, and sports to the peninsula for over 40 years. 92.7 and 98.5 WGMD. The Sean Hannity Show, weeknights at 9 on WGMD's 92.7.
Broadcasting from the Atlantic Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
Your News Talk America Digital Interactive Friday continues. My friends, ever since President Trump has taken office, he has been stalemated by a judicial coup. A cabal of radical judges has connived to block the president in dozens of areas. Each week, another lawsuit, another order, and more time wasted and momentum lost to the left. There is an outstanding opinion piece posted in Front Page Mag on 24 Hours on how to save Capitol Hill and America. We're being joined by former Texas Congressman, currently Senior Fellow for Political Statesmanship with the David Horowitz Freedom Center, Louis Gohmert. Congressman, let me ask, you were there recently on Capitol Hill. How has it changed since you've left Capitol Hill? You haven't been gone all that long, but I'm just wondering if you noticed any significant differences to the relationships between those on either side of the aisle, the overall atmosphere on Capitol Hill. What did you sense?
Well, as far as the feelings between or the aisle, let me just say, when I first got to Capitol Hill, January of 2005, Jake, you often heard the line in debate from both sides of the aisle. Look, we both sides want to get to the same place. We just have different ways of getting there. Mm-hmm. And it was generally thought to be true. But I'm telling you, that is not true now. There are so many people on the Democrat side that want to get to a Marxist place. And we do not, on our side of the aisle, want to get to a Marxist place. We don't want to get to the same place anymore. So that line that has been used for many decades, we all want to get to the same place, it isn't true anymore. And the longer time goes on, the further away that both sides of the aisle get because of the rabid leftist radicalism that we see from the Democrats. They're not really Democrats anymore. They're the red-green coalition, like Carlos the Jackal said decades ago. The only way we're going to
there's a name for the past, Carlos the Jackal. Holy cow!
Well, he's the one that said it many decades ago. He said the only way to bring down the United States is for radical Islam and Marxists to join forces, Marxist Muslim, because as Dostoevsky pointed out in answering this idiot named Marx back in the 1800s, the problem with Marxism is atheism. You cannot be a Marxist and not be an atheist. To be a Marxist is to be an atheist because the government has to be God. That's all there is to it. If you're a Marxist, you're an atheist. The government is God. Well, you can't be a Muslim if you're an atheist. That's just all there is to that. So if the Marxist-Muslim combination were to ever take over, then there will be another battle between the Marxists and the Muslims, the atheists and the Muslims, to see which one takes over from there.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
So that's where that's headed. And I would just as soon keep our little republic, like Franklin said, if we could keep it. Well, I think we can, but we have got to take these responsible steps. And Congress, and in particular, the Judiciary Committee, has got to be where it starts to call these judges in, because that's where it started. And you mentioned David Horowitz. I just love that man. And
he was
actually,
amazing.
In the last book that he had printed before he died, here he was, one of the top couple of communists originally in 69 and 70s, and atheist. But his last book, it talks about we owe, our American heritage, not so much to Montesquieu or others that were often credited, but to a monk who, rebelled, and he found from the Bible that God recognizes us all as being equal. I've got his book back here somewhere, but America Betrayed, but how a monk is the one that laid the foundation for America's real founding. And it's fabulous. But he points out, as communist leaders, He said, we were the problem and we didn't realize it. We thought you just give us more power and we could fix everything. He said, how arrogant was that? But he is the one that then realized that where his former friends couldn't accomplish what they wanted with riots and bombing, they then moved into the universities and started teaching.
Yes, that is correct, and that is the root of the big problem we have today. Plus the fact that
right.
yesterday, just D.C. Residents basically elected a communist mayor for Washington D.C. yesterday. She's a card-carrying commie,
and that came from these years of teaching the teachers to teach students about Marxism being this great. Judges that were acting far afield from what they were appointed to do is kind of a follow-up to David's idea of cleaning up professors that are destroying education. Well, let's fix the judicial system with judges that are destroying that.
No question about it. Congressman, we're running out of time, but I have a couple of questions I want to get to that have been posted on our Dial Interactive board, courtesy of Meineke doing car care right. Flyboy asks, how do we correct the judicial system by making it attainable for the common people and being able to bring redress against the government? Our current system only works if you have money. These judges also rule against the Constitution blatantly. Your response to that, Congressman?
Well, and it's a great question, and it can be foreboding, trying to get into the system. But the great thing is there are groups now, conservative groups of lawyers that will handle constitutional issues for free. They raise money and they handle constitutional issues for free.
Right,
pro se. Will help you get through that. And there's a number of them. Judicial Watch has been very helpful, but there's a whole group of them now, and that's helpful. But when you have judges like we have, like Judge Young, as Daniel pointed out in one of his pieces, Young, in one of his opinions, was accusing Trump of violating his oath to faithfully execute the office of president. That was not called for in his what he was supposed to rule on. He said ICE ICE brings indelible obloquy to the administration, everyone it works for, and that they wear masks for a single reason, to terrorize Americans into quiescence. That's not true, but it's because they have families, and the left said, we want to know who they are so we can go, just terrorize their families. How can a judge make such a ridiculous statement like that?
Well, they're not much of a judge. I mean, really. Yeah, you've been a judge yourself, Congressman. That judges aren't supposed to do that.
But that's how we got to hold them accountable. It starts by getting them on the hot seat and questioning them and letting them know for the first time in decades that they still can be held and will be held accountable. So the first step is getting them in, getting them on the hot seat, raise hand, under oath, asking them questions, and if they're not satisfactory, then you proceed to impeachment. And it doesn't have to be bribery, treason, high crime, misdemeanor. It can just be bad behavior. And it looks to me like we've got an awful lot of bad behavior.
I would agree. And certainly we've got a midterm election coming up. Maybe the fair question for all Americans, wherever you are, judges who time and again have put the Constitution in a shredder. Congressman Gohmert, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time today. We'll have you on again.
They got to call their congressman now before the election and say, call these judges in, subpoena them, get them to testify now before the election.
Well said. Well said. Congressman, thank you. God bless you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Brother.
You're listening to Your News Talk America. You're also watching Your News Talk America on this Digital Interactive Friday. We're going to be talking schools and education coming up next. Stay tuned.
Here is the Marine forecast from the Tuck of Delmarva Weather Center. Showers and storms in the area today. And on the water, northwest winds 5 to 10 knots, seas 3 to 4 feet. The current water temperature is 71 degrees. At Cambridge, high tide 8:08 a.m., low tide 3:12 p.m., high tide 8:42 p.m., and at Rehoboth Beach, high tide 12:02 p.m., low tide 6:04 p.m., high tide 12:28 a.m.
Hey, it's Rockfish. Tune in this Saturday night at 10 p.m. and Sunday at 3 p.m. for Laugh Smartly to laugh like me and Mrs. Rockfish do on WGMD's 98.5 The Talk of Delmarva.
This WGMD Fox Business Update is brought to you by Sussex Environmental Consultants. For a healthy home, call 302-947-1810.
I'm Elizabeth MacDonald, and this is the Fox Business Report.
SpaceX shares pulled back this week after the meteoric rise on its stock launch a week ago, though the major credit rating agencies are mostly supportive of the business. S&P Global Ratings, Moody's, and Fitch have all assigned SpaceX a stable outlook and BBB credit rating. They cite its competitive edge in its space and connectivity business. Its Starlink provides global high-speed internet. The rating sees benefits from Starlink and SpaceX's relevance to the U.S. government. German luxury car maker BMW and its employee representatives are preparing negotiations after the company slashed its profit outlook, citing weakness in the China market and vowed to step up cost cutting. The markets are closed today in observance of Juneteenth. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Coselda, invested in you.
I'm alpine skier Michaela Schifrin. I've won the most World Cup ski races in history. But what does success mean to me? Success means discipline. It's teamwork. It's the drive and passion inside of us. And it's why Stifel is one of the fastest growing global wealth management firms in the country. If you're looking for success, surround yourself with the people who will get you there. If you're an advisor or investor, choose Stifel, where success meets success.
Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated. Member SIPC and NYSE. Past performance is no indication of future results. Investing involves risk. Consult a financial advisor before making any investment decisions.
Car Care Center Studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD.
Problems with education, and my friends, we're not going to fix this country until we fix education. It's just as simple as that. But I want to welcome in, and she's been a very good friend to this program, Carolyn D. Gorman, fellow at the Manhattan Institute. I guess you could say that Carolyn is an education expert. Carolyn, would you agree with that?
I hate to call myself an expert because I'm not on the ground there with a lot of different teachers and school administrators who, for the most part, I want to say are really trying hard to deal with some real problems today.
You wrote an opinion piece in City Journal. Congress is treating schools like mental health clinics. Explain, please.
Yeah, so we have a lot of funding that is supposed to go to school safety initiatives that keep kids safe. And a lot of this funding has come from really terrible tragedies like school shootings. Now, what those grants have now gone to is not the typical school safety types of programming that you might expect, like school safety officers or discipline enforcement. Instead, we're now calling safety a mental health problem, and we're just dumping resources into really superficial programs like social emotional learning and restorative justice kumbaya circles. And Congress just recently tried to set their budget next year for these programs at over $200 million. American taxpayers are not getting their money's worth.
So what would you say then? What should Congress be focusing on with respect to education, Carolyn?
Well, first, let's start with basic enforcement of behavioral codes of conduct. Kids need to learn how to follow rules. And this isn't just merely about punishment. It's about teaching kids when you're in class, you're supposed to behave a certain way, in a way that's respectful to other students and respectful to teachers and just other people around in society. These aren't just school rules. These are sort of society rules. And we're sending a message on really early that rules don't matter, behavior doesn't matter, and you can fool around in class and get away with it.
And they are. There's very little discipline left in the schools. And I guess the other side of the coin, if you went to Catholic school and there were nuns there holding a wooden ruler in their hands, that is a far different cry from where we are today, isn't it?
It really is. And I think that's important to note because we're not talking about, again, pure punishment. We're just talking about teaching kids the rules. But because we're sort of wrapping everything in a mental health narrative, we're also confusing what the root of any given problem is. Today, when a kid misbehaves, we tend to think about what their mental health is first before we ask questions that are more appropriate for a school to ask, like, how is this kid's reading ability? Or, how is their teacher doing? Have they eaten today? Those are the types of questions that we should be asking first, but instead we're just declaring that they probably have ADHD and putting them on a pill.
Kids today get rewarded just for showing up. They get they even if they don't win anything, and schools don't want to they don't want to leave them back. They if they're failing, they'll just give them the passing grade just to kind of move them on. Carolyn, is that true?
That's right. So my MI colleague, senior fellow Jason Riley, wrote in the Wall Street Journal recently that this is a case, sort of shedding light on this. A lot of times, it's so much administrative burden, so it's just a lot of paperwork for teachers to hold a kid back, that the school encourages them to move the student on regardless of whether or not they've met the actual competency requirements for that grade level. This may seem compassionate on the surface level, but in reality, you're sort of putting a kid on a pathway to no success because once they're behind, they're never going to catch up that much.
I've noticed just in the past couple of years that there are more and more news reports reflecting teachers caught having sexual relationships or caught in sexual relationships with their students, Carolyn. It seems like there's one in the news every single day. And I'm just wondering, what's that all about and what should be done when teachers cross the line with their students and engage in inappropriate sexual activity with them, do you think?
Well, first of all, that is never, ever okay. But second of all, I want to say my colleague Chris Evans, who's on Twitter or X, I should say, as A Legal Process, is talking about this all the time because he has spotted something that I think people don't typically realize, and that is school mental health professionals specifically are not actually licensed to practice behavioral health. And so a lot of times you have unlicensed, barely credentialed adults who are then able to kind of use this mental health title and mental health school program as a way to give the impression that they have some type of authority or expertise that they don't. And this just happened in Virginia. A, quote, social emotional learning coach, unquote, was found guilty, was arrested on, I think something like 11 charges of sexual assault. Something like 7 children were abused, and worse of all, the principal doesn't know how many more kids may have been met with this student or with this staff member.
Why do teachers do this? Is it all about power and control, Carolyn, from your estimation?
Look, I don't want to make any type of guess about why this is because it's just incredibly disturbing. And I do want to say the vast majority of teachers, school counselors, and school psychologists they have good intent. But I think this is why it's really important to make sure that we have appropriate guidelines and guardrails, because without them, we're putting kids in harm's way.
Our listener producer Wolf just posted in our Dial Interactive lounge, which is invariably a chat room. He said it's appalling that school systems can't teach basic educational skills and actively destroys student minds, but forces gender alterations on minors and abuses mental health. You're talking basically, Carolyn, about mental health abuses, aren't you, from the school systems themselves?
Again, I think a lot of times we all think this idea sounds good. Things sound good in theory, but it's all about what happens in practice. And that's why the best thing we can do is just make schools be schools. Teach kids how to read, teach kids how to do math. Right. They can't do that right now. So why would we want schools to do any more than that anyway?
The same producer Wolf just said, how long can our miserable excuses of public school systems go on before they collapse from themselves? Carolyn, how much longer can this go on? Will parents allow it to go on?
I think parents do need to be engaged. And frankly, there are a couple reasons parents need to be engaged. The first reason is if they don't know what's going on with their kids, then things can go on with their kids that they don't want. But the other reason is a lot of school staff, like teachers and school psychologists, are saying that parents are just dumping their kids on them and telling them, fix my kid's problem. That's also not okay. So we need to realign people's behavior, even adults, not just among the kids.
Carolyn D. Gorman, fellow at the Manhattan Institute. Both of Carolyn's opinion pieces, there are links there on my show notes today at realnewstalk.com. They're outstanding. I certainly urge you to go on and read them today. Our public schools, they belong to us, my friends. We fund them. We support them. We need to get them fixed and fast. Carolyn, thank you so much for coming on with us. Great to have you back, and we'll have you back soon.
Thanks as always.
All right, thank you. You're watching Your News Talk America. Back in just a moment. It's Digital Interactive Friday. We have more coming your way.
Here's a look at your Delmarva forecast. Thunderstorms likely today. Otherwise, cloudy skies expected. Daytime highs approaching 80. Winds out of the northwest, 5 to 10 miles per hour. Lows level off around 65. Tonight, mainly clear skies. High of 83 tomorrow. Ample sunshine expected. Sunny skies Sunday with daytime highs approaching 87. 89. Chance of thunderstorms Monday. I'm meteorologist Paul Trombley from the Tonka of Delmarva Weather Center, inland. Right now, it's 67 degrees.
Join me, the Rehoboth Foodie, on Saturdays from 2 to 4 to WGMD 92.7.
You're afraid of protecting your data, but lots of places could still expose you to identity theft.
I thought it was safe.
If that happens, LifeLock gives you a U.S.-based restoration agent who will stick by your side from start to finish. Phone calls, filing documentation, preparing insurance claims, your agent handles it all. In fact, we're so confident restoration is guaranteed or your money back. Isn't it nice to have someone like that on your side? Save up to 30% with promo code NEWS at lifelock.com. Terms apply.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
ZipRecruiter.
Take a break from ordinary aboard the Cape May Lewis Ferry. A 12-time winner of TripAdvisor's Award of Excellence, it's easy to see why a cruise across the Delaware Bay is a summer tradition for locals and vacationers. Enjoy cool bay breezes, lighthouses, vessels, seabirds, and maybe your own dolphin escort. And remember, vehicles, foot passengers, bikes, and pets are all welcome. Visit CMLF.com or follow on social media and take a break from the ordinary and make memories that last aboard the Cape May Lewis Ferry.
We live in a very special community. With the help of Community Bank Delaware, Thursdays at 9:20, we bring those unique qualities to you. Community Bank Delaware, headquartered right here in our very special community. Community Bank Delaware, it's where community matters.
The Maryland primary election is June 23rd, with early voting June 11th through the 18th. A friendly reminder from your local election station, 92.7 and 98.5 WGMD, the Talk of Delmarva.
Broadcasting from the Car Care Center Studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD, the Talk of Delmarva.
From DS2, your anchorman Jake Smith behind the shiny golden microphone. For those of you watching the stream, you see how beautiful and shiny this microphone is. Coming up in just a moment, we're waiting for our panelist to jump on here, and she, very interesting, she's produced the first feature film on Iraqis who have moved or relocated from Iraq to the suburbs of Detroit. I'm moving papers around here because I've got so much going on. My apologies for you watching the program. If you're listening to the radio, you probably don't know that I'm moving a lot of papers around, so sometimes it's easier or better to be on the radio. All right, let me just checking with our control room. Okay, so, all right. Here we are, my friends, talking about Iraqis who have migrated to the Dearborn Heights section of Michigan, the suburb of Detroit. And it's similar to those from Somalia immigrating to Minneapolis, St. Paul area, very similar situation. But the first Iraqi-American feature film uses humor and heart to explore cultural divides in suburban Detroit. Let's welcome the writer and director of this film. Its title is Pomegranate. Her name is Wiam Namu. I hope that I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Yes, you are. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. I have a little bit of knowledge about Dearborn and Dearborn Heights. I have family in the area. There has been, I guess, some unsettled feelings about from Michiganders, especially those in the Detroit area, about the number of Iraqis who have migrated and settled in Dearborn Heights, and so forth. So, how much support did you get from non-Iraqis on producing this film?
I actually got more support, except, well, the talent are Iraqis of Iraqi background.
Right.
But I did get the support from non-Iraqis, and it was surprisingly there was a book talk that was canceled by the Muslim community because of the subject matter. And
really?
Yes, and then we had some pushback again from the Muslim community because of its subject matter. But I figure that my Native American teacher used to tell me that if your book is creating any kind of controversy, or your film, at the time I had my book, he said that means that you're telling a very important story.
Well, I think that was very sound advice for an author. What do you think?
I think so. Originally, I was somewhat concerned and surprised by it, and as were the talent, actually, because it is led by women talent. And the Muslim family is Muslim in real life, and the Christian family is Christian in real life. So we actually thought that the way in which we were embracing the story, it's a beautiful story about love and empowerment and assimilation. And honestly, everybody worked on it like a great team. So we were expecting a different response. So that was surprising, and it was a little bit hurtful. The reason being, there was a report that was recently published about how there was, by the Muslim community, about how there isn't enough stories that represent Muslims, like the good Muslims.
Yeah, positive Muslim stories you're talking about.
And this is exactly what it's about. But I think the one area that areas that we often don't talk about, that I think is very difficult for our community, and I'm not just the Muslim community, but the Middle Eastern community in general, when it comes to issues of women. I think that's one area that's always, there's some kind of a wall that's placed up. There's, and these are the topics that we discussed. We discussed very, very important topics in a loving and authentic way. And that needs to happen. I mean, you being a host, a radio host or a TV host, or anybody, any author, filmmaker, one of the things that we utilize is the importance of using creativity to tell our stories and the power of that. And so we were trying to do that. We were surprised by it. However, we did receive over 50, nearly 60 international film awards.
That is amazing. I saw that in the show notes. I could not believe it. Yeah, widely recognized as the first Iraqi-American feature film, Pomegranate has swept over 50 international film awards and caught the eye of the producer of Home Alone, Scott Rosenfeld, who came on board as executive producer. Now, based on Scott's surname, he's probably Jewish, and he got on board with this project. And he got on board with this project.
He loved it. He loved it. We had Muslims, we had Christians, we had Jews, we had Black, white. Everybody was working together on this project because they love and believed in the story. And that was more important than anything. So whatever did happen or not happen, the positive feedback that we have gotten, and Scott Rosenfeld, I remember, he loved the story before he even, the premise of it, before he even read the script. Then when he read the script, he said, I did not realize there was so much humor in this. And what humor does, in his case, what he felt is that he could relate to the story, regardless of his background. So I think humor, authenticity helps us connect with whatever community we're reading about. I mean, I was 9 years old when I read Gone with the Wind. I was living in Jordan and thought that I was going to come to the United States. And I loved the story, thinking I'm going to come here and see, Atlanta, Georgia in the 1800s.
Boy, did you have a surprise when you got off the plane, huh?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite stories. When I tell it, I do get a lot of laughs at that. But that just shows to tell you that storytelling is so powerful that sometimes we forget, like, hey, Scarlett O'Hara is not living the same lifestyle that I am, but her feelings, her inner feelings, her world, I can feel something for her regardless. And I think that's what Pomegranate does, and that's why it's gotten so many awards.
We're being joined on the panel this morning, Your News Talk America Digital Interactive Friday, by William Namu, writer, director of the film Pomegranate. Did you shoot this entirely on location in Dearborn and Dearborn Heights?
It was actually shot in Sterling Heights, Michigan. Sterling Heights, it's not far away, but it has the largest, this district has the largest Iraqi American population in the entire United States.
Dearborn, in that area, Dearborn Heights, for those of our viewers today and listeners who aren't familiar, that was Ford Motor Company. I mean, the Greenfield Village was there. That was the Ford Museum. That was Ford Motor Company territory, and it's changed quite a bit. Well, let me ask you this question. Do you think Iraqi immigrants in Dearborn consider themselves patriotic Americans? And do you believe they have assimilated into American culture? Because there's general consensus today that those who come from the Middle East immigrate here to the United States. Similar to what's happened in Europe, they don't have any interest in assimilation. What did you find when you were shooting this movie?
Well, I found that, like the talent that was involved, after the fact, I looked at this and to look at why is the book talk being canceled? Why is there such pushback, the lack of support? And I guess there isn't enough assimilation. And I came to the United States when I was a child in 1981. Mm-hmm. My observation and looking into all of this, because we shot the film in 2021. Okay. So there was a lot of observation. Unfortunately, a lot of the negative things that have happened in the Middle East, particularly towards women, like with the Taliban, with Iraq lowering the age after so many decades to the age of marriage to 9 years old. So in observing this, I realized there's a lot that has been changed about the Middle Eastern community, and it's not necessarily the same one that I had left. And the ones from the time that we immigrated here were anxious and eager to assimilate because we had left a very totalitarian regime. We wanted to come here, and this is for the most part, I mean, I'm Christian, and most of us, the ones that I know that want to come here, do want to assimilate because we came here exactly for what the United States has to offer. What I'm finding out that there is this resistance to assimilate and to hold on to certain ideologies that were never really serving us in the Middle East to begin with, particularly towards women. And that's just a fact. I mean, if anybody has been to the Middle East, and oftentimes the people that have a different viewpoint, I notice the first thing I ask, have you been to the Middle East? No, but, well, first of all, that alone, I don't think that people are equipped to speak unless they've been there. Have you been a minority? Yeah. Have you been a minority there? And on and on. So this story is not only to show our authentic stories and issues that relate to us, but it's also about women and how they really feel and what they are looking at. And it's not necessarily the same as what the media is trying to tell everybody. But we need to hear them because this is really what's happening in our communities.
Absolutely. Let me get to a couple of questions that have been posted for you on our Dial Interactive board, coming to you courtesy of Meineke Doing Car Care Right. First question from producer Frank. The film swept more than 50 international awards. What has surprised you most about how different audiences reacted when they saw the film? Good question, Frank. Thank you. And you say?
Well, what surprised me is when I tried to talk about the Iraqi American experience, people from different backgrounds will say, but this is us watching this, we didn't feel like this is about the Iraqi American, it's an Iraqi American film. It's just a great film. We love the characters, we love the story.
Well, that's what
we
you
love the
want, right?
humor, And that's
isn't that what
exactly.
isn't that the reaction that you really crave for that reaction?
I love that
yeah.
was, but I just to the extent where that it was
All right,
expressed.
we're gonna have to end it right there.
Rehoboth Beach, Ocean City, and WUSX Seaford, Salisbury. News, talk, and sports.
A renewed ceasefire in Lebanon. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. It went into place 2 hours ago that after a flare-up of fighting between Israel and Iran-backed Hezbollah militants and the postponement of new U.S.-Iran negotiations that were supposed to start in Switzerland today.
This is not a retreat for Israel from these established security zones in southern Lebanon, and the IDF says that they have every right to defend themselves, and this comes on the heel of heightened fighting in southern Lebanon. Overnight, the IDF reported 4 soldiers were killed and dozens of Hezbollah fighters died.
Fox's Max Gordon also has an update on the Strait of Hormuz that reopened fully to oil and other shipping today.
Iran is now requiring ships to register with the Iranian government and hinting that tolls might be put in place after the 60-day negotiation period.
Many lawmakers in Washington are wary of the agreement with Iran and the concessions it gives. Republican Congressman Rich McCormick tells Fox
they're going to get $300 billion no matter where it comes from. They're going to have sanctions that we had before the war removed.
But President Trump posted on Truth Social this morning, Iran gets no U.S. money, not 10 cents. And he wrote, Democrats say Iran's better off now than 4 months ago. How stupid can some people be? A win in court for pro-choice advocates.
A Missouri judge upholds the state's voter-approved Reproductive Freedom Amendment, also known as Amendment 3, over a year after voters approved it. The ruling strikes down several abortion restrictions in Missouri, expanding access, including abortion medication. Supporters call the ruling a monumental win for reproductive freedom and abortion access. The state says it plans to appeal.
Fox's Jeff Manasso, the American World Cup soccer team getting ready for a second match.
Forward Haji Wright says the U.S. can't get overconfident against Australia, despite dominating Paraguay 4-1 in the U.S.'s last game.
Any team who's qualified for the World Cup can hurt us.
Australia also won its open.
92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
As a family member or friend, you may be the first to notice when a veteran you love has been going through changes. Things like withdrawing, drinking more, or increased anger could be a sign of a larger health concern. But help is available. Listen to hundreds of inspiring stories at maketheconnection.net and learn how you can support the veterans in your life. Treatment works. Recovery is possible.
My name is Corporal Bradley Joseph Seitz.
Jerry Reed.
Kate Weber.
These are real veterans facing a real challenge.
I have PTSD.
And I have PTSD.
I have PTSD.
Post-traumatic stress disorder can happen to anyone.
I was still in a war zone in my mind.
But treatment can turn your life around.
Treatment has really saved my life.
To learn about PTSD and how treatment can help you, call your local VA medical center or visit ptsd.va.gov.
Major Brad Hovey, age 35. Jeremy Smith, age 32, and Christopher Rishar, age 41, died as well. They were contractors from Boeing. If not for their ultimate sacrifice, this nation could not, this nation would never have remained free. For Salute the Troops, I'm Jake Smith. That is today's Salute the Troops segment, but I played it early to segue into this next segment, and I want to welcome back to Your News Talk America, Captain Mark Harris, U.S. Air Force retired. Captain Harris is a decorated former Air Force Special Operations pilot who served in a combat zone. He holds a bachelor's degree in physics from the University of North Georgia, magna cum laude, top physics graduate, and a master's in aeronautical engineering technology from ASU. Currently, he trains corporate pilots from around the globe, but he served and serves as an FAA examiner. Captain Harris, this was just terrible news earlier this week. The B-52 that crashed in California at Edwards Air Force Base. What should we, as Americans who obviously were mourning the loss of 8 people, 6 of them were either prior or active service members, how do we think about this kind of a crash, and do we demand to know more about the investigation going forward?
It is a horrible tragedy. Just hearing those names, I guess I'm not a young anymore. I'm 59, but they're all younger than me, and I know they had families, and some of them had kids, and it's just a horrible thing. The families of these people do deserve answers. I hope they get fair, honest answers. I know that process takes time. Unfortunately, there's been some, a lot of conflicting information that's come out already about the accident that we might want to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, some of it is, and I will just touch upon one thing, that there were messages going out that that may have been sabotage involved in this in the crash of this B-52.
I have not heard that. What I will say is, I haven't seen any data that's come out so far that gives the slightest hint that this was, pilot error. Something disastrous happened to this airplane. Now, the initial reports, and everybody reported that the airplane took off, made this dramatic turn back towards the airport, and then crashed and was in the air for 3 minutes and 15 seconds. That combination of events is impossible. had it turned immediately and then crashed, we'd be talking about, 15, 20 seconds total. Now, the latest that I've read this morning, a lot of reports are correcting their reports and saying, no, it crashed straight ahead moments after takeoff and was not in the air for 3 minutes. Now, there's unconfirmed reports that eyewitnesses saw it drastically pitch up and was unable to recover. That would indicate a stall. And a stall would not be caused, a stall is not caused by losing engines. If they could lose all their engines and land, glide to a landing. An aerodynamic stall would technically means exceeding the critical angle of attack, but it looks like probably a flight control issue. What caused it, and again, I could be wrong, and some of these reports might be wrong because they've changed, but I don't believe the pilots were at fault. It looks like something catastrophic happened, possibly a flight control malfunction that caused them to lose control of the airplane and stall and crash straight ahead.
The B-52, I understand, has 8 engines. Is that correct, Captain?
Correct. And I understand it's a handful with an outboard engine failure, but it's still controllable, and that would not cause necessarily a crash and would be unlikely, I would think. I'm not an expert on the B-52 for a single engine loss to cause the crew to lose control or crash the airplane.
Now, it appeared that the damage from the aircraft, there was not much left. You're an FAA examiner. How do you actually look for the cause of a crash like this when there's so little evidence left in which to examine?
Well, now, I examine pilots, not airplanes, but, from my limited knowledge, they're going to pick up every little piece and try to fit it together to the degree possible, what's left, but it looked pretty bad. Hopefully, the black box survived and we can get answers from that. I think that's the best hope.
What about the age of the aircraft? The B-52, and these aircraft were built, some of them in the 1950s, correct? And they're still flying today.
Yeah, it's the only airplane in the military history that as far as I know, that, has plans to continue flying it operationally at 100 years old. So.
But they were up. This aircraft was being retrofitted, I understand, with updated radar equipment, right?
Yes, and it's something that's crossed my mind. When you change equipment on an airplane like that, you would affect the weight and balance of the airplane, the loading of the airplane. I don't think that was an issue here. It's something others have mentioned that they may look into. The reason I don't think it's an issue is this, from as far as I know, I'm pretty sure this airplane is in the 400,000 pound plus weight range. I don't think radar equipment would throw off the weight and balance of an airplane that big and hefty enough to cause it to crash. However, the installation of new equipment could have possibly interfered with some of the controls. There may have been something got jammed or frayed or damaged in the process of the installation. We do know there were a lot of maintenance delays and complaints by the crew about the maintenance delays on the airplane. We don't know what those were for. So.
We're being joined this morning on the panel by Captain Mark Harris, U.S. Air Force retired. Captain Harris is a decorated former Air Force Special Operations pilot who has served in a combat zone. He holds a bachelor's degree in physics from the University of North Georgia, magna cum laude, a top physics graduate, and a master's in aeronautical engineering technology from Arizona State University. Currently, he trains corporate pilots from around the globe and serves as an FAA examiner. Who is actually responsible for investigating this crash? Is it the Air Force themselves, or does the FAA have some type of involvement in this, Captain?
I honestly don't know the answer to that. I'm sure the primary responsibility would be the military, but I would think the FAA and the NTSB would be involved as well. I don't know how that, bureaucratic mix works, to be honest with you.
Our listener producer Frank has posted a question on the dial board, courtesy of Meineke doing Car Care Right. He says the crew was a mix of military, civilians, and contractors. How does a test crew like this operate compared to a combat crew? Good question, Frank.
It is a good question, and it would be interesting for me, and I'm sure for other people, how much experience did they have working together? Were these people thrown together for the first time, didn't know each other? I honestly don't know that. A lot of it would determine, do they have a working relationship, or was this something that, strangers meet at the airplane and go fly? I don't know the answers to that question. So the dynamics, I would think, would depend on, their relationships and work, experience working together. I know, I've worked on a hard crew, in the military where you fly with the same crew for weeks and months, and I would imagine that would be very different from this crew. So,
follow-up question from listener producer Frank. Officials say the investigation could take up to 6 months to complete. What are investigators actually doing in that time? Are they interviewing witnesses? What actually goes into an investigation like this, Captain?
Again, I'm not an accident investigation specialist, but from my limited knowledge, of course, they will interview witnesses. I think the most important piece of evidence would be the black box. They're certainly going to try to recover that. I know they typically, will try to. They'll bring every little piece to a hangar somewhere and try to piece them together, and lay them out as much as possible to try to determine what actually happened.
We're being joined by Captain Mark Harris, U.S. Air Force retired. We're going to take a break, Captain. We'll be back on your News Talk America Digital Interactive Friday in just a moment. Stay with us.
Here's a look at your Delmarva forecast. Chance of thunderstorms this afternoon. Otherwise, cloudy skies expected. High temperatures reach up to 80. Northwesterly winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Mainly clear skies tonight. Lows around 65. Sunny skies tomorrow. Highs level off around 83. Sunny skies Sunday with highs in the upper 80s. Chance of thunderstorms Monday. I'm meteorologist Paul Trombley from the Talk of Delmarva Weather Center, inland. Currently 68.
The best mix of news, talk, and sports. 92.7 and 98.5. The Talk of Delmarva. Kick Smith, mid-mornings on WGMD.
This 11 a.m. Wellness Minute is locally brought to you by Pam Health Rehabilitation Hospitals. A fall, a fracture, a joint replacement. Orthopedic injuries can change your life in a moment, but with a right recovery plan, they don't have to define it. After surgery or trauma, healing doesn't stop at the hospital door. That's where acute rehabilitation steps in, helping you regain strength, mobility, and independence. At Acute Rehab, patients receive intensive therapy at least 3 hours a day, guided by an expert team of physical therapists, occupational therapists, nurses, and physicians who specialize in rehab medicine. Whether you're recovering from a hip fracture, knee replacement, or spinal surgery, Acute Rehab is designed to get you moving safely sooner. Orthopedic recovery takes more than time. It takes the right team. Ask your doctor if Acute Rehab is the next step for you or a loved one, and remember, you have the right to choose the level of care that's right for you. Visit PamHealth.com today.
I'm Tim Van Votto, running for Worcester County Commissioner District 3. Over the past several months, I've visited more than 1,500 homes and listened to residents across our community. Residents deserve leadership that communicates early, listens often, and addresses problems before they become crisis. With 40 years of real-world business experience, I'll bring common sense leadership, accountability, and accessibility to county government. I'm Tim Van Votto, and I respectfully ask for your vote on June 23rd. Paid for by the committee to elect Tim Van Votto, Catherine Van Votto, Treasurer.
Tune in this Monday afternoon after the 4:30 news as WGMD's featured guest will be Jim Fritz of All American Mortgage, specializing in reverse mortgages and keeping you up to speed with Delmarva's ever-changing housing market this Monday afternoon after the 4:30 news.
Views and opinions expressed are those of the hosts, callers, and guests, and not necessarily the staff, management, ownership, advertisers, or sponsors of WGMD.
Car Care Center Studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
Digital Interactive Friday continues, and we're talking about the tragic crash of a B-52 bomber at Edwards Air Force Base in California, which claimed the life of 8 Americans. 6 of them were service members. 2 were contractors from Boeing. Captain Mark Harris is joining us, U.S. Air Force retired. Captain, one of our listener producers, Flyboy, from Dover, Delaware, just posted, the NTSB investigates air crashes in conjunction with the United States Air Force and the FAA. Well, there's the answer to that question. Flyboy, thank you very much for that.
And that was my guess, but I didn't know the answer.
Okay, that's fine. Well, we all know now, right?
Yeah.
Thanks to Flyboy. The last time you were on with us, Captain, you were discussing your book, Houses of the Holy. Before we wrap this segment up, I thought you would talk a little bit about your story if we have viewers and listeners today who did not hear that story. And perhaps you could tell us a little bit, again, about your book, Houses of the Holy.
Okay. What started with basic efforts to protect my kids from sexual abuse in Florida turned into this bizarre mushroom cloud of events that ended up dirtying hands from Florida to Washington, D.C., including the involvement of former Attorney General Eric Holder, who unleashed a lynch mob of lying lawyers on me in court. Just, in the last few days, I've learned some incredible news, uncovered some incredible details of what really happened in this case. I've talked to my publisher. We're going to do an amendment to my book.
Wow.
It's bad. It's very bad.
Eric Holder is the same Attorney General who was the gun runner from Mexico, right? He was involved.
I call him Fast and Furious Eric Holder. Yeah, no.
That's right. And I'm sure he was at the opening of the Obama Library in Illinois yesterday. But you actually had, the government came after you in a, let's put it this way, in a no-holds-barred fashion. They tried to ruin you and take your kids, right?
Oh, absolutely. They tried to take my kids over and over again. I was targeted by the IRS twice. I was placed under false arrest once, uncovered numerous plots to frame me. I've had false information planted in various records in my VA medical file, in my FAA federal records. And it's just really unbelievable that this can happen in this century. And particularly unbelievable that, other than a few outlets like you, the mainstream press won't report this stuff. One of the key people involved in sabotaging my career as a pilot,
right,
20 years in prison now for raping and torturing kids. And he was a manager at Delta Airlines, and the press won't report that story. And I find it unbelievable that someone at that level engages in such horrible crimes against children with a history in 2 other states, it turns out, and the press won't report it. And
because the press is being controlled by the very people responsible for the crimes that you mentioned.
Absolutely, yes.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on today, Captain Mark Harris, and talking to us today about what took place with respect to the crash of the B-52 bomber in California. It's again, we're going to remember those who were lost today on Salute the Troops, which comes up at 11:50 Eastern Time today. Take a quick break on Your News Talk America, and Paul Davis is going to be joining us as well. Captain Harris, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Back on Your News Talk America in just a moment. Please stay with us.
Why do we ignore the things that give us pause, that seem out of place, that don't feel right? The answer to why defines who we are. So if you see something, why do you say something?
I see safe for my friends.
For my community.
For my family.
For each other. Because all of this matters. We all have something worth protecting. So why do you see safe? Report suspicious activity to local authorities. If you see something, say something.
The best part of your day is between 9 and noon Eastern Time on Your News Talk America.
not heading to Geneva this weekend. Are you surprised? Probably not, right?
Well, you can knock me over with a feather, Jake. I mean, this is something we had talked about, or I talked about with others. Iran is going to use Lebanon as its get out of jail free card, and this is exactly what had happened. They were pushed into a corner, so they called their friends at Hezbollah and said, attack Israel because we know they'll attack you back. And once they did, they said, oh, it's all off because Israel is still attacking Lebanon, and that was the number one thing in the memorandum of understanding. Although Israel and Lebanon were not part of the memorandum of understanding. So this is the question that we have now. And now, supposedly a ceasefire between Hezbollah and Israel. We'll see what happens.
Yes, we have heard of those ceasefires before being declared, and they don't last very long, Paul, do they?
No, they do not.
Paul, can we turn our attention to Russia, Ukraine? It appears to me, and I mentioned this yesterday, that the war between the two countries at this point is a stalemate. How long can this continue, in your estimation?
That's an interesting question because, I mean, obviously Russia is getting the worst end of this war. But however, they also outnumber Ukraine from a military standpoint or an economic standpoint by a large margin. So the question is who is going to continue to support Ukraine in its fight against Russia? How long will Russia be able to maintain its position? I mean, yesterday we saw the refinery near Moscow being decimated.
Yep.
So we need to know how long can this happen? How long can Putin hold on? And how long is his people around him going to allow him to hold on? So it's an open-ended question, Jake.
And now that the Strait of Hormuz is open, Russian oil is going to be sanctioned again, which is going to put, I guess, more pressure on Vladimir Putin.
Well, let's see what happens. I mean, again, I just read that Iran has just once again closed the strait, so we will see what happens.
Oh, did you did that just happen?
Yeah, just about an hour ago.
Oh, okay. So here we are.
Okay, but as far as the Russian sanction on oil, we'll see what happens. I mean, this is something we have to look at from a worldwide community for the oil. We know that now that Iran can play that Hormuz card. If we leave the Russian oil flowing, that lessens their leverage in Hormuz.
I read yesterday that India, who bought a lot of Iranian oil, has basically abandoned Iran for the future and is going to buy oil now. They're signing long-term contracts with adjoining Gulf states rather than do business with Iran. I was not surprised at that, but I wonder how many more countries, Paul, are going to do the same thing. And does that put a long-term hurt on the IRGC?
Well, and this is what we've talked about before, the fact that Iran is basically hurt itself by closing off the Strait of Hormuz because now everybody is looking for other ways to get oil and other ways to get it to market. Yeah, I mean, Saudi Arabia has the East-West pipeline. It does not replace the amount of oil that can come through the tankers. And then UAE is on the other side of the strait, so they can continue. So it's going to be a matter of, in the future, in the very near future, what kind of infrastructure is going to be built to bypass the straits and get that oil market.
And there have been a number of, the Saudi pipeline is operating now, I understand, and that bypasses the Strait of Hormuz, correct?
That is correct.
So, I mean, Iran may think that they're being cute here, but they may be a long distance failure here, because if they don't play their cards right, they're going to see their customers that they've had for a long time purchasing their oil going elsewhere, and that will not help them to recover from this war.
No, it will not. And we're seeing that more and more. I mean, the United States continues to be a major supplier of oil to the world, and we've opened up Venezuela, and we've opened up more and more of pumping in the United States. We're opening up Northern California. We'll get more into the Gulf. North Sea production will probably increase. So, yeah, we're seeing a lot of things. Iran did itself no favor. Short term, it helped. Long term, as you said, nope, ain't going to help.
Yeah, I mean, the oil markets, the stability in the oil markets is what customers look for. And Iran doesn't offer that stability anymore, and people are looking elsewhere. I don't blame them.
Nope, and that's exactly what's going to happen.
Paul Davis, Vice President at the Institute of World Politics. Paul, thank you for giving us that update on what's going on with the Strait. We appreciate it, and I suppose next week we'll be talking to you again.
Oh, there'll be 12 different things that have come up, Jake.
Well, but we'll be ready to talk about them.
Yes, we will. Okay, sir. You take care.
Paul, thank you very much for coming on. Well, there you go, my friends. Late breaking news. Iran has closed the Strait of Hormuz. Well, I don't know what else to say. None of us are surprised that the Iranians, who really don't, they're like a rudderless ship at this point. And we're just going to have to wait to see how this shakes out. More of Your News Talk America coming up in just a moment. Going to be talking about America's 250th anniversary. That's coming up with Dr. Murray Sabrin in just a moment. Stay with us.
Here is the marine forecast from the Tuck of Delmarva Weather Center. Showers and storms in the area today. And on the water, northwest winds 5 to 10 knots, seas 3 to 4 feet. The current water temperature is 71 degrees. At Cambridge, high tide 8:08 a.m., low tide 3:12 p.m., high tide 8:42 p.m., and at Rehoboth Beach, high tide 12:02 p.m., low tide 6:04 p.m., high tide 12:28 a.m.
Hey guys, it's Rob Carson of the aptly named Rob Carson Show. Weekdays from noon to 3. Now on the Talk of Delmarva's 98.5.
This WGMD Fox Business Update is brought to you by Sussex Environmental Consultants. For a healthy home, call 302-947-1810.
I'm Susan Lee, and this is the Fox Business Report.
U.S. markets are closed today for the Juneteenth holiday. Global shares declined. Crude oil prices nudged higher after U.S. and Iranian negotiators called off peace talks, but retreated after reports of a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. The dollar is heading toward its strongest weekly gain in a month. RBC Capital Markets predicts there will be a number of ships eager to leave the Gulf, and they predict crude oil will struggle to find its footing. The U.S. is investigating Germany's plan to require drug makers to offer bigger discounts on pharmaceuticals. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer says American patients should not be shouldering a disproportionate share of global pharma research and development. The probe could lead to new tariffs. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Costello. Invested in you.
I'm alpine skier Michaela Schifrin. I've won the most World Cup ski races in history. But what does success mean to me? Success means discipline. It's teamwork. It's the drive and passion inside of us, and it's why Stifel is one of the fastest growing global wealth management firms in the country. If you're looking for success, surround yourself with the people who will get you there. If you're an advisor or investor, choose Stifel, where success meets success.
Stifel Nicholas & Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE. Past performance is no indication of future results. Investing involves risk. Consult a financial advisor before making any investment decisions.
Car Care Center Studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
Your News Talk America Digital Interactive Friday continues. I want to thank all in the control room this morning, especially Snerdley and Mark for their work, Walt Palmer as well, handling the radio side of the broadcast today. My friends, we're back to talk about Countdown to 250, celebrating 250 years of American independence. We have with us Dr. Murray Sabrin, the Mises Institute, I pronounced that correctly, he's a Mises Institute, try that one more time, Jake, Mises Institute Associated Scholar and Professor Emeritus of Finance at Ramapo College in New Jersey. Very interesting information that I have on my show notes for today, and that is a link to lawliberty.org, Dr. Sabrin, that 250 years ago, Thomas Jefferson, when drafting the Declaration of Independence, borrowed heavily from the Virginia Declaration of Rights. And that was an opinion piece written by Daniel L. Driesbach, and I had no idea.
This is why American history is so poorly taught in our schools. I was an American history major. I didn't know about that either. And so what we have to do is give students the essence of American history, which is what are the founding documents? What were the founders thinking when they created America. And you start with the Virginia Declaration of Rights. You go into the Declaration, you go into the Bill of Rights. In fact, the Virginia Declaration of Rights was one of the foundations of the Bill of Rights. I have a copy of the Virginia Declaration of Rights in front of me, and verbatim, it's in the Declaration, it's in the Bill of Rights. And Jefferson borrowed heavily, as you pointed out, from the Virginia Declaration, because he was from Virginia and he knew all the players, so to speak, in Virginia. And George Mason wrote the first draft. It's just an amazing document that if you ask people today, do they embrace it? I would imagine that all the Democratic Socialists would say no, or a few of them would say yes, because it really sets the stage for the premise that government is supposed to protect people's individual rights. Rights do not come from the government, that there are no entitlements if you're an American citizen, that you work, you produce, you trade. That is the essence of a free society.
I have a question that just popped up from our listener producer, Frank, on our Dial Interactive board, courtesy of Meineke doing Car Care Right. President Trump speaks about making deals. What are the other things he should promote, i.e. liberty? Should President Trump be speaking more about our constitutional protections and liberty?
Not only that, he should talk about the founders gave us a vision for the country. It's based upon the premise that we have God-given rights. We have the right to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. And I've never heard Trump in any of his speeches, and I haven't listened to any of them. I've never heard him speak in any of the dialogue that he's had with the press about independence, about limited government, about free enterprise, about free markets.
Right.
For a businessman, it's astonishing that he doesn't embrace something that is fundamental to the business community. Free markets give you
that's
prosperity.
He's a billionaire because of the freedoms that he was able to utilize to build his empire, right?
Well, I think to a large extent, he's also failed in a lot of businesses, which is part of the free market system, where people who don't provide the services and the goods that people want, they go by the wayside. That is the essence of a market economy. It's profits and losses. And the people on the left, the Democratic Socialists, who I wish they would shut up because they're spewing nonsense to the American people and they're gaining traction, just shows you the level of financial and economic illiteracy in the country.
The link to the Virginia Declaration of Rights article that I spoke with you, I have a link directly to that, again, by it was penned by, I've got it here, where is it here? Oh, yes, Daniel L. Driesbach. And you can go right to my show notes, realnewstalk.com, and read it. It's fascinating, my friends. Also, you have been a proponent for free market systems and poo-pooing government spending. You wrote a very interesting piece on Substack, and I have the link to that piece as well. Tell us about it. I believe it was also published in the Wall Street Journal, correct, Dr.
Yes,
Sabrin?
last week, Art Laffer, the famous economist who created the Laffer curve that says if you lower tax rates, you'll get better economic outcomes, which is true. But he also thinks that that's going to generate more tax revenue for the government. We don't want more tax revenue for the government. We want less tax revenue for the government.
We want to shrink the size. We want to starve them.
That is one of the fallacies of supply side economics is that they want to grow government's revenue, which means government spending goes up, because if you have more revenue, they're not going to cut taxes more. They're going to spend more, and that's why we have a $7 trillion plus budget, $2 trillion deficit, and close to a $40 trillion debt. It's not because government has been starved for revenue. They've gotten so much more revenue in the last 40 years, and their spending has increased faster. That's why we have a huge debt problem. In addition, everyone's starting to talk about it now, and we'll see what happens. The Social Security so-called trust funds are going to go broke in 2032, which means there'll be more money going out than coming in, and there'll be no buildup of reserves. This is the flaw of Social Security. People who saw Social Security's structure in 1935 when the legislation was passed said this is unsustainable, and of course it was bailed out during the Carter administration, then again in the Reagan administration, and now the chickens are coming home to roost. These programs do not have long-term sustainability, and besides, they're unconstitutional. There's nothing in the Constitution that authorizes the government to create so-called retirement accounts.
I had former Texas Congressman Louis Gohmert, strong conservative, on earlier today. And one of the things we talked about what's broken about the legislative branch in this country, and it's broken. We know it is broken big time. But Dr. Sabrin, one of the things that he mentioned was there is no courage within the halls of Congress to do the things that the nation really needs. They politically, they're worried that whatever they may propose, bills they may sponsor, it may hurt them politically. So without that courage, we're seeing government run amok, no?
Not only don't they have courage, they don't have the ability to communicate that free markets benefit everyone who wants to work and produce. That is what a free society is all about. And the messaging has been so terrible. Reagan was probably the best messenger in the Republican Party in my lifetime. And yet here we are in 2026, 40 years after he left office, and we're going down the socialist path at full speed. I mean, the Democratic Socialists are going to try to take over the Democratic Party. And so
they already have, Dr. Sabrin. They already control it.
Well, to the extent that you cannot get through a primary unless you kneel before the altar of Bernie Sanders and AOC, this is the problem we have in the country. And I blame the Republicans to a large extent. You know why? Because they didn't stop these big government programs back.
No, they didn't. They signed on as well. There's no question. They signed on as well. And yesterday, the residents in D.C. elected a socialist, communist, Marxist mayor to take over in January. I mean, there are more and more of these openly Marxist, socialist, communists that are running for office, governorships, congressmen, congresswomen, that kind of thing, and they're mayors, governors, and they are slowly taking control.
Well, this is. I think it was Mao Zedong says power comes out of the barrel of a gun. The Democratic Socialists are not using a gun; they're using the government as their gun to enforce draconian, totalitarian, authoritarian rules and regulations on the American people.
But they're also using the media as their propaganda tool as well, Dr. Sabrin.
Well, that's why I'm doing my Substack, I'm doing my podcast, I'm doing everything I can in my retirement years to stop, to halt this craziness that's going on in this country. And I've seen this evolve from the 1960s, and here we are 60 years later, and the left is on the march, and people are broadly on the right, and I consider myself a free market conservative libertarian, and we need to stop this thing, because in 4-8 years we can have government total control over healthcare, over housing, over transportation, over money and banking, and that means we become slaves to the federal government.
Listener producer Frank also asks, well, he makes a statement, but there's a question at the end. If the founders saw the current federal budget, what would alarm them the most? I think the amount of the deficit. If the founders took a look at today's federal budget, what would they say, Dr. Sabrin?
Well, one thing they would say, which is in the Virginia Declaration of Rights, they were very leery and upset about having a standing army, because they just fought against the standing army, the British. And they saw what a standing army can do. It can oppress the people domestically and internationally. Fortunately, we don't have it so much domestically, but we do have military troops all over the world, bases all over the world. I think George Washington would be appalled, given in his farewell address. He said, "No entangling alliances." That is one of the foundations of an America First foreign policy. No foreign alliances.
And, Washington not only talked the talk, he walked the talk too, because he kicked the French out of here when they double-crossed him on that agreement with respect to going to war. Am I correct?
I don't know the specific details of that, but all I know is Washington did some things well, some things not so well. He was involved and putting down a tax rebellion in Pennsylvania. I think.
Oh yeah, but he wasn't president then, right? They reestablished his commission, and he went to Pennsylvania to put down an uprising over taxing of alcohol.
Whiskey. Yeah,
Whiskey,
I mean,
right? Yeah.
This was the beginning of the notion that the government can just about tax anything that it wants, and so the founders were very leery. Many of them were of centralized power. That's why the Articles of Confederation were about decentralization, and it was a confederation of states. It wasn't a unified government like we have today, where the states are playing second fiddle to the federal government. That's why the 17th Amendment is so important.
I would just you took the words right out of my mouth. That 17th Amendment has got to go. It has got to go, Dr. Sabrin.
People don't realize the state legislatures appointed senators. It wasn't the popular vote of the people. The popular vote of the people was in the House, and the legislature was supposed to have.
And they could
power.
recall those senators if they wanted to as well, right?
Absolutely. And this way we wouldn't have a problem with people there for 30, 40, 50 years
Absolutely.
In the Senate.
Yeah, now we have a Senate club. You're there for life. They carry you out of there in a box.
Well, you have people in their 90s serving in the Senate, which God bless them. They're healthy enough to stand up, but I don't think cognitively they're in great shape.
No, you're not talking about Mitch McConnell, are you?
Well, he's not 90 yet, but he's getting there.
Yeah, that's for sure. Dr. Murray Sabrin, Countdown to 250, celebrating 250 years of American independence. Dr. Sabrin's Substack on government spending. The link is on my show notes, as well as the Thomas Jefferson drafting the Declaration of Independence, borrowing heavily from the Virginia Declaration of Rights. The article was written by Daniel L. Driesbach. There's a link there as well. Dr. Sabrin, thank you so much. We'll talk to you next Friday.
Great to be with you again, Jake. Have a good day.
All right, thank you. You're watching Your News Talk America. Salute the troops coming up in just a moment. Stay with us, please.
Here's a look at your Delmarva forecast. Chance of thunderstorms this afternoon. Otherwise, cloudy skies expected. High temperatures reach up to 80. Northwesterly winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Mainly clear skies tonight. Lows around 65. Sunny skies tomorrow. Highs level off around 83. Sunny skies Sunday with highs in the upper 80s. Chance of thunderstorms Monday. I'm meteorologist Paul Trombley from the Talk of Delmarva Weather Center, inland. Right now, it's 70 degrees.
Salute the troops with 92.7 and 98.5 WGMD. You're listening to WGMD.
Admiral Jewelry and Coin Company, located on Route 16 in Milton, is your one-stop shop to buy, sell, and trade anything gold or silver. That's right, jewelry, coins, bullion, silverware, tea sets, even broken scrap and demo gold. So put a little cash in your pocket today by stopping by Admiral Jewelers on Route 16 in Milton.
Open Tuesday through Saturday at 307 Broadkill Road in Milton. That's Admiral Jewelers.
Trees, trees, trees. At Complete Tree Care, that's the topic in our office all day, every day. We talk about evaluating trees, trimming trees, safely removing trees, grinding tree stumps, and leaving our clients' yards spotless. Call Complete Tree Care today and let one of our trained arborists visit your property and give you a free estimate. 302-947-2273. That's 302-947-2273. Or on the web at CompleteTreeCareDE.com.
Hi, I'm Clark, principal at Giuliani Associates. Before you build, you design. And design determines cost, efficiency, and longevity. A well-designed facility reduces friction and supports growth. Poorly designed one becomes an ongoing expense. If you're planning a restaurant, office, public facility in Delmarva, start with the right plan. Giuliani Associates. Architecture is an investment. Design at betterdelmarva.com. Design at betterdelmarva.com.
Every act of change begins with a neighbor, with someone saying,
We take care of each other here.
in food banks and food pantries, neighbors pack fresh food and dignity into every box, moving food from farms to families through Feeding America's nationwide network. So when that box reaches a home, it carries more than food. It carries a promise that together we can end hunger. Feeding America, led by neighbors. Take action to end hunger now at feedingamerica.com.
As you know, 8 people were killed when a B-52 crashed moments after takeoff at California's Edwards Air Force Base on Monday. The 8 who died have been identified. Salute the Troops mourns the ultimate sacrifice of Colonel Gregory Watson, age 53. Lieutenant Colonel Gabriel Estrella, age 40. Retired Lieutenant Colonel Miles Middleton, age 50. Major Alexander Davis, age 34. Major Robert D., age 40. Major Brad Hovey, age 35. Jeremy Smith, age 32, and Christopher Richard, age 41, died as well. They were contractors from Boeing. If not for their ultimate sacrifice, this nation could not, this nation would never have remained free. For Salute the Troops, I'm Jake Smith. Davis was absolutely correct. So glad we got him on and he gave us this news. And it's not up yet on Fox. I looked at the Fox website. But New York Post, Iran declares the Strait of Hormuz is closed again after U.S. lifts the blockade. You know, you can't make this stuff up. That's what I'm trying to say. All right, I'm reading directly from the article here, courtesy of the New York Post. Iran reclosed the Strait of Hormuz Friday instead of heading to Switzerland for a nuclear negotiations, citing Israel's refusal to pull forces out of southern Lebanon and U.S. forces' ongoing presence in the region. They never, my friends, had any intention of entering into any type of agreement with the United States. It's clear. In a statement read over the maritime radio channels, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the IRGC, which is, they are the ones running the show in Iran, said the U.S. was in violation of the Memorandum of Understanding between Washington and Tehran, which President Trump and Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian, I guess that's how it's named, signed on Wednesday. Since Israel's withdrawal from Lebanon, the complete lifting of the naval blockade, and the withdrawal of American terrorist forces from the Persian Gulf and the region are among the main conditions of the agreement between Iran and the United States. The Strait of Hormuz will remain closed until these conditions are met. So basically, the IRGC is attempting to blackmail the United States and Israel. Israel is not going to pull out of Lebanon. We knew this was going to be an issue, my friends, but I'm not sure what to make of this, whether the president might consider resuming bombing against IRGC headquarters and various infrastructure that he's talked about many times of hitting. I mean, let's look at it from a negotiation standpoint. 60 days, the clock is ticking. Well, day 59 already, and nothing's happened. The only thing that's happened is that they've closed the Strait of Hormuz. This deal, and I'm going to play this. This is, let's see. Let me go. Okay, here it is. I had to look for this audio cut from the first hour of the radio broadcast this morning. Jack Keane, General Jack Keane, who is a war hawk, explained that this went from a war to an economic plan because of fears that continuing to close the Strait of Hormuz would lead to a worldwide economic collapse. Listen to this.
The Arabs put pressure on the president, saying, one, we don't think it's going to succeed, and two, we fear they're going to come after their oil and gas infrastructure. They had no idea what our military capability would be to open the straits, and also what our military capability would be to adequately defend the oil and gas infrastructure and take away Iran's offensive capability. Nonetheless, this idea landed in the sense of this could cause a worldwide depression, and it discounted our military capability, and that led to the shift in priorities that we see, and it led to, obviously, the formulation of a deal. And people get wrapped up in the deal, and I understand why, but you got to understand what the deal is. That the only deal is really opening the Straits of Hormuz. That is the deal that's been agreed to do, and we remove our blockade to do that, and we make other concessions.
All right. Well, now the Strait of Hormuz is now closed again. So do we re-blockade the Strait of Hormuz? What's President Trump's next move? I just went to oilprice.com. Again, my friends, this is a great website. Oilprice.com. Oil prices, which are on the decline, are now on the rise again. West Texas Intermediate, which was like $74 this morning, is now up to $76.32. Brent crude, which was at $77 when I signed on this morning, is now at $80.28. So I'm not sure how you feel. I can tell you how I feel. I would like to be invited to the Oval Office so I can sit down with President Trump and say, I told you so. We'd all like to say, we told you so. But he doesn't like war, and he was being given all of this advice to, cut a deal with the Iranians, move on, and let's get ready for the midterms. If we need to hit them at another time, we'll hit them. They're not going to develop a nuclear weapon now for the foreseeable future. We've taken care of that. However, it seems to me that we've got to go. We've got to hit the Iranians back again. I just don't know what to say. I don't think there's any other path to getting this Iran question settled. We went from demands for unconditional surrender to we're going to sit down and let you open up your oil business again and open up the Strait of Hormuz, and we're going to get you $300 billion of aid that is going to be donated by the very countries that you were shipping missiles or sending missiles into a few months ago. That's what I think. I just think that this has got to be fixed now. Is it the politicians in Iran that don't want to fix this? No, it's the IRGC. The IRGC who wants to continue funding and supporting Hezbollah in Lebanon. This is a big problem. And President Trump, Vice President Vance, they've done all their best to try to negotiate a fair settlement. But there was no mention of the crimes that Iran has done against the United States. The Beirut bombing, they've done that. They look at all the damage they did in Iraq when we were fighting in Iraq. I just think that it's time the IRGC be eliminated, and we'll see what the administration's next response is to the reported closing by the IRGC of the Strait of Hormuz. Do they then use drones to attack our aircraft and our troops in the region that are being stationed in various Gulf states? That's a good question. They've done it before, and my guess is they will probably do it again. Well,
Talk Station 92.7 WGMD Rehoboth Beach and 98.5 WUSX Seaford. The talk of Delmarva, WGMD.
Peace Talks on hold. I'm Carmen Roberts, Fox News. The White House confirms a new round of U.S.-Iran negotiations scheduled for today.